Hello, friends. Today I thought I'd do something different. I have about 9 characters left on Warriors Orochi 4 Ultimate PC before I can start getting into the final tower and start doing endgame videos. I know people really liked my tower runs, and I wanted to do them with commentary and things. It's going to take a while. I'm only missing a couple rare spawns, luckily. I think I'm missing Hayabusa, Zeus, who doesn't count because you get him when you have everyone else. And then I think there's like one or two other rare spawns like Orochi, but it's going to take another long session. And my hands are kind of cramped right now. Combination of mostly playing DMC3 on Switch, it's hand cramp city, like I was talking and talking about earlier this week, and then just playing Orochi and stuff has just made my hands very tired. So what happened a couple days ago was somebody in the official Koei Tecmo Discord. They mentioned wanting to leave feedback, and the Koei Tecmo America community manager, social media rep, he actually made a channel for feedback. So I put out a monster wall of text copy pasta about things that I think should be improved with the game. Obviously, I played the game a lot more than pretty much anybody else, besides that one Korean guy that plays a lot. He plays way more than I do. So I thought I would give some pretty constructive feedback. I thought I'd go over it here. Um, what I'd like you guys to do is if you have any feedback here that I have not mentioned, go ahead and leave it in the comments, and I'll go ahead and relay it to him myself. He said that he's going to be going to a meeting soon, I guess, where he's going to talk about feedback for the game and things like that. So I guess that basically indirectly means that the game is not going to, they're not going to kill off support. Obviously, Dynasty Warriors 9 is getting those new anime costumes, and there hasn't been any any meaningful content for that game in many months. So I assume that they're going to have the same kind of love and support for this too. So the first one here is rare elements need to drop in infinite mode. With the way it is now, the player gets none of them in the hardest content and has to go back to the trivial story mode to get them. It's definitely one of the biggest problems in this game. It's very similar to like if you played like an MMO and you were at the end game, and instead of like doing a raid or hard party content or solo content or something, you went back to like the level 1 area to get the best stuff. That's exactly how this game is structured right now. One of the biggest problems is when you go through the new chapters content in the story mode, you have a decent influx of rare elements coming in as long as you have perpetual pandemonium on. But the problem is your supplies are going to run dry really fast. And once you start getting into infinite mode, provided that you play with more than one team, if you play them with more than one team, it's not that much of an issue. But eventually, going to branch out at some point, and you'll have like no rare elements at all. So what happens is you have to go back and do like a run of shame back to the story mode, which is basically trivialized by all the power creep that you get in infinite mode. Even more so when you actually get a couple ultimate weapons, you basically can just do what all the game reviewers say Muso games are and just button mash and kill everything. I hope that's something that they'll fix. I was hoping that they would fix it in this patch that just released a couple days ago, but unfortunately they haven't. Anyway, next point. Add more Peon spawns in infinite mode. Once a player gets to the final endgame tower, the KO count missions have a higher requirement, which ends up indirectly slowing the game down due to how few spawn. This would speed up the mode drastically. Once you get to the final tower, it starts wanting like 2,000 plus KOs, and there's just the peon crowds are so thin. It really makes things drag on. The only time that you really get any kind of respite from it is when the game gives you a double score for magic or muso KOs. That can actually speed things up quite a bit, but still, the crowds are quite thin. I don't really understand why it's designed like that. I remember Gauntlet mode just had way more peons overall. I think that would make the mode more exciting, would make it go faster too. Next point. Reduce the amount of anchors that need to be destroyed in infinite mode and or let the player reset the objectives in the final tower. This objective feels like it takes twice as long as the others, and the mechanic of destroying them basically bogs down to just standing still for 10 seconds. When the game asks you to destroy over a dozen of them, that's over a few minutes of basically dead air. I think the destroying anchors objective is the worst one in the game. It can actually be harder on some of the smaller maps because the peons' spawn points will be so close to them that they'll keep spawning, and you can't actually destroy them properly. It's actually better, ironically, to get them the anchor objective on the larger maps because the spawn points will be more spread out and you'll actually be able to take them easily. Some of the smaller maps, it feels like not almost impossible. It's just really aggravating. I don't really see what the purpose of this objective is because it just slows the game down. Infinite mode, anything involving the score or anchors, is already drastically slower than any of the other ones. I think they need to improve the pacing overall. For something they expect you to do, apparently hundreds and hundreds of times, judging by a trophy that expects you to craft 100 ultimate weapons. I think they need to make the pace and the flow of the overall infinite mode. They need to make it better because right now, sometimes I've done many dozens of tower runs on the Switch version, and sometimes when you just get a bunch of the ones that want you to destroy the anchors, it just feels like a major buzzkill. It just stops being fun. I think they could deal with maybe removing some of the more boring objectives, or at the very least, let you reset them in the tower. The enemies in the final tower have a metric ass ton of health, so I don't really think it matters. I don't think letting the player reset the objectives in there like they can in the main Skyfather tower would really trivialize the game. Slay barely does anything to them in that tower, so generally you actually want to learn how to use the combo system, which I think is actually pretty cool. Warriors Orochi 4 has a very deep, very free-form combo system, but the game has never really encouraged you to use it. The only thing you really get out of doing a high combo is you can destroy the Chaos Origins faster, and your unique magic gets buffed. But that really doesn't mean much of anything. I think it's actually pretty cool. They definitely encourage you to learn how to do 100% combos because otherwise you're going to run out of time pretty quickly if you're not killing efficiently. So my third point is add a free mode where the story levels can be played, but no message lag mandatory dialogue plays. The amount of mandatory dialogue is what destroys the pacing in the campaign, and it only gets worse when the player tries to get the unique weapons, farm rare elements, or just play casually. This combined with a new element restriction feature would give the campaign some relevancy again after infinite mode made it trivial. Like I said before, story mode is completely trivialized once you start messing around in infinite mode. Even if you just have a maxed out character and you still have a crap weapon, pretty much everything is just going to die pretty much instantly. The only thing you really have to worry about is the monsters. Even with max defense, they can still take off a pretty significant chunk of your health. So you do still have to be careful around them. But even then, they're doing a pretty small amount of health, so you can always just switch out or burst with a Muso or a charge magic or something. I think giving the story mode some relevancy would definitely help. Right now, the only real reason to play it is the rare elements, which is not something the player should have to do in the first place once they're in the deep end of the end game. It doesn't really make much sense. Like I said, it's like going back, fighting like slimes in Dragon Quest or something when you're already at the end game boss. I hope that's something that they'll address. A lot of the achievements are kind of dumb too, like the ones that want you to get all the objectives. All the unique weapons in the story mode have been completely power creeped out. There's no real reason to ever bother getting them once you start doing infinite mode. Even then, there's such a marginal increase over the base fourth weapons, and then they also power creeped the unique weapons out of the game even more because you can actually get fourth weapons that have stronger attack power than the unique ones when you start playing infinite mode. I guess it's kind of supposed to be gateway weapons to kind of tide you over until you get your ultimate weapon because it takes a pretty significant amount of content and grinding to get to that point. I'd like them to give the story mode more relevancy. I would probably be willing to give the element restriction feature an honest chance if it actually gave a good reward. The only thing it really gives you is more gems, and as you know, once you get towards the end of the game, the gems are basically trivial. You will get hundreds of thousands of them every time you clear one of the towers, especially more if you have your support team maxed out at level 100. That'll give you 50% extra. So you're basically never going to run out of money. You generally, the way the economy works is the most expensive thing you can buy is the ultimate weapons when you craft them. Those are 1.5 million. However, by the time that you get enough materials for another one, it's very low chance that you will not have made all that money back. It would be cool if they actually added maybe some unique features or something to using the element restriction. I think that would make it make more sense to use it. The problem with the story mode is just how much time you spend just running into doors and waiting for them to stop talking. There are a bunch of other people who suggested this as well, so I think there's a higher chance of that actually being listened to. Next point is allow the player to spend a large amount of gems to force a rare officer spawn in infinite mode. It took me about 4 hours for Achilles to spawn on my Switch file, and there was nothing I could really do to speed this up. The rare spawns are far too difficult to get, and it is nothing more than an RNG barrier to get to the true endgame content. Like I said here, The only way you can get to the actual final tower, where they actually encourage using the combo system, you can get the best gear in the game, is to basically play Muso Pokemon and get everybody in your party. But the problem is the rare spawns are they're just far too hard to get. It seems like they spawn like just way too rarely. What makes it worse is if they spawn late into a map and they don't join, then you basically will have to reset the whole thing over again. The ideal situation with a rare officer is to get this to find them within the first few minutes of the level, and then just keep respawning and keep resetting until they join. But sometimes that's not an option. It can also get into a really bad sandwich situation where you get another character you need, or you get one rare spawn and then another one spawns, and you can't get both because there's such a low chance. I think they should give the gems more of a purpose. I feel like they wanted the ultimate weapons to be a gold sink, but considering you have to clear the tower a maximum of like 3 to 4 times, maybe even 5 times, depending on how lucky you get, you just have an endless supply of money. The materials are far harder to get than the money. I think like letting you buy the rare elements or having some other kind of gold sink would really help to make the end game more interesting. That's going to go to my second point here. Add accessories that change the way the game is played, similar to what was in the last game. Right now, the final in-game reward is just a reskinned fourth weapon with a maxed compatibility bonus, which isn't that great considering how hard it is to get even a single one. Infinite mode is great gimmick-free fun, but the rewards for doing it are lackluster at best. I did not like a gauntlet mode. I found it very boring. Not being able to tag just kind of encouraged just Muso spam and just staying invincible the whole time and stuff. It just wasn't really engaging to me gameplay wise. I would like to see them add some more interesting endgame rewards. They kind of did that with Dynasty Warriors 9 in a way. It wasn't really executed in the best way there either. You know, they had the void gems and stuff, but they were completely RNG. You couldn't really control what was on them or fuse them or craft them the way you wanted or anything. So you couldn't really make actual builds. You kind of just made patchwork ones with the stuff that it gave you. I think having some more rewards would be nice. I don't think it would cost too many resources to make some accessories or things like that. The accessories are definitely the coolest part of Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate's Gauntlet mode because it made the technique characters really fun to play. It gave the power types jump cancels and stuff. Those are pretty huge things that could really change how the playstyles work for a lot of the characters. They already kind of have that with the skill tree, but it seems like the skill tree expansions, from what I've seen, they don't really change the way you play that much. I think this would be a great way to have another kind of element to the gameplay loop besides just grinding the towers and sometimes getting really agonizing ones like the constant just influx of having to destroy the anchors and stuff. Make it a little bit more rewarding to get through. There's already a lot of RNG to begin with in the final tower because the way that the tower works is that when you clear the tower, it takes the materials from a pool of 10. So sometimes you'll have like one character will get 5, the other one will get 4, and the other one will get 1. So if you have like one character that's already maxed out with a weapon, there's always a chance that they'll get a bunch of them and the others will get none. So I think it would be nice if they had like something else to kind of encourage you to keep running through it. I think the trophy to get 100 weapons is like ridiculous. It would take hundreds of hours to get that, and there's no real fast way to do it. Even if you run a couple, you have like two mule characters and one character that's maxed out with an ultimate weapon with the max compatibility bonus. It's still going to take a really long time. I think they could manage to make things a little bit more interesting, have a little bit more fun ways to engage with the mode. And then finally, my last point was remove the recovery when using the Agi Dash as Dynasty Warriors technique type. The step from Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate was far more responsive and had more use in combos after the Heavenly Sash was earned and equipped. Right now, the only use they have is breaking guards and mashing them to stack proc damage. That's kind of the problem with the technique characters in this game compared to the last one. Technique characters were very lackluster in Vanilla Warriors Orochi 3 because the step was basically useless and you couldn't cancel into it. It made far more sense to just put wind on your weapon and just break a guard right away by forcing them to block. The step made no difference at all. But when you equip the Heavenly Sash, suddenly all the technique characters became really fun. I think that's actually my favorite version of Ling Tong, is Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate Ling Tong with the Heavenly Sash, because it just turned him into a crazy cancel combo character. He was a total beast in that game. He sucks in Dynasty Warriors 8 and Warriors Orochi 4 because of the moveset he's stuck with. I think that would make tech characters a little bit more interesting. Right now, all you really do is you just you proc wind, you make them unblock, you put them in hit stun, and then you just mash the attack button. They're not as interesting to play as even the power types. I've never really liked playing power types in Orochi games, but here they have the guard cancel, and sometimes you can do some pretty cool stuff with that. I feel like the Agi dash is really only fun to use with the Samurai Warriors characters because they have the actual Agi. The Dynasty Warriors characters have the Shadowless Feet dash, which doesn't even feel as responsive as it did in Dynasty Warriors 7 and 8, which feels weird. I'm not sure why it's designed like that. I hope that's something that they'll look into. Dynasty Warriors characters have always had a very difficult time in this game. Like, I remember back before the 1.06 patch, they didn't proc elements on any of their EX attacks, so those moves are really stylish to use, but they were functionally useless. I think it would be cool to make the technique characters on the Dynasty Warrior side a little bit more interesting to use. Anyway, that's basically it. If you guys have any more hit input, go ahead and post in the comments, and I will send it to him directly. He's asked me for feedback for Dynasty Warriors 9 in the past. I don't remember how much of that was actually used, but it seems like they're not dropping support just yet. It seems like they're probably going to support it for a few months. I don't really think any of these things are unreasonable. A lot of people are obviously going to be asking for the Spirit of Sanada characters to come back. Obviously, that would require a lot more work. They would have to hire the voice actors back. I don't know who voice acts the Spirit of Sanada characters. I don't know if they're the same people who voice the other characters in the game. If so, then maybe that's something they'll do at some point. But I was kind of looking into things that would just improve the game without needing new assets, and I think all of these things would greatly improve the overall end-game experience and make the game more fun. I really love the combat in this game. It's very hard to use it in the campaign. It's just very repetitive listening to them talk and all the scripted events. They definitely go overboard with the scripted events towards the end of Warriors Orochi 4 Ultimate's campaign. I'd like the campaign to have more relevancy, or at the very least, to make it so infinite mode has officer pileups. It's kind of unfortunate. The only way you can really get officer pileups in this game is playing the campaign, and like I said before, you kind of just trivialize it once you start kind of going into Warriors Orochi 4 Ultimate's endgame content. So giving that mode more relevancy and just making the infinite mode more fun is pretty much all I asked for. Anyway, go ahead and give me some input. I will be back tomorrow. I may actually throw in a stream and try to get the last 9 characters, but like I said, a couple of them are rare spawns, so it's basically just reset city. I'll definitely let you guys know when that's done, and I'll get cracking into the end game. And I think you guys will like watching it, whether it's with commentary or not. I'm not really sure how much commentary I'll do in the final tower because, like I said, there are definitely some objectives that take exponentially long than the others. It's not terribly interesting to watch, but maybe I'll split them into 2 videos or something. Thanks for watching.